In 1965, Britain was in the middle of big change. The Beatles were topping the charts, England was a year away from winning the World Cup, and shopping still meant coins in your pocket, not cards or apps. But perhaps the clearest glimpse of the past comes through prices. Today, we're stepping back into everyday Britain and rediscovering what life truly cost in 1965. Number 1. A pint of milk. Delivered in clinking glass bottles by the milkman, a pint of milk cost just 4 pence. Every morning, the sound of rattling crates meant breakfast was about to begin. Children would rush to peel the silver cap, sometimes to discover a bird had already poked through the foil to get at the cream. Milk wasn't just cheap, it was dependable. Even in heavy snow or strikes, the milkman found his way. Today, a pint can easily cost 60 to 80 pence. Back then, it was the most ordinary luxury of all. Number 2. A loaf of bread. A fresh loaf cost around 9 pence. Bakeries were still common on every high street, filling the air with the smell of warm dough. Many families went through a loaf a day, using it for packed lunches, breakfast toast, and mopping up stews at night. Bread was wrapped in paper, not plastic, and often eaten the same day. At less than a tenth of what a loaf costs today, it was cheap fuel for a busy country. Number 3. A pint of beer. At around 1 shilling and 3 pence, or about 6 new pence, a pint of bitter or lager was within reach for almost everyone. The pub wasn't glamorous, but it was the social hub of every community. Darts, dominoes, jukeboxes, and laughter made it the heart of British evenings. Compare that with the £4 or £5 you'll pay for a pint today, and you realize just how central beer was to daily life. Number 4. A cinema ticket. For 2 shillings, around 10 pence, you could step into velvet seats and escape into another world. The cinema was more than entertainment, it was ritual. You dressed up, queued outside, and always got a double bill, a cartoon or newsreel before the feature. In 1965, you might have seen The Sound of Music, Goldfinger, or a Carry On film. At today's prices, that ticket would barely buy you a chocolate bar. Number 5. A gallon of petrol. Petrol cost just under 30 pence for an entire gallon. Attendants filled your tank, cleaned your windscreen, and checked your oil. A Sunday drive to the seaside wasn't a luxury, it was expected. Compare that with today, where a single liter costs more than the whole gallon once did, and you see why families treasured their cars. Number 6. Buying a car. A brand new Ford Anglia could be yours for about £550. Cars were symbols of pride, cleaned every Sunday, and photographed like family members. The arrival of a new car on the street drew neighbors out to admire it. With careful savings, it was achievable, not just a dream. Owning one meant freedom, independence, and status. Number 7. Average house price. The average home cost about £3,800. That's less than the price of a used car today. Mortgages were arranged face-to-face with a local bank manager, based on trust as much as numbers. Many families moved into post-war semi-detached houses, complete with tidy gardens and 2 or 3 bedrooms. A home was more than property, it was stability for life. Number 8. Council house rent. For those renting, council houses cost around £2 per week. They weren't temporary or stigmatized, they were homes, often with gardens, and neighbors who truly knew each other. Children played football on shared greens, adults lent each other tools, and meals were passed over fences. That £2 a week bought more than shelter. It bought community. Number 9. Weekly groceries. A family could fill their bags for about £3 a week. Meat, potatoes, vegetables, and tea were weighed and wrapped by hand at local shops. Nothing came in plastic packaging, nothing went to waste. A chicken might stretch over 3 meals and leftovers were carefully used. Food shopping was as much about conversation with the butcher or greengrocer as it was about the food itself. Number 10. The Friday pay packet. For many working men, a week's wages averaged around £18. Cash came in a small brown envelope, handed over with notes and coins counted out. Fathers would give the envelope to mothers, who stretched it into rent, meals, bills, and shoes for the children. It wasn't much, but it carried dignity. Number 11. A stamp for a letter. Posting a letter cost just over 1.5 new pence. The value wasn't in the price, but in the connection. Birthday cards, love letters, and news from relatives arrived with the knock of the postman. Every stamp carried not just ink, but meaning. Number 12. A newspaper. For about 3 pence, you could buy the morning paper and catch up on everything from politics to football scores. People bought them daily, sometimes more than one. In 1965, newspapers were thick, heavy with adverts, and often passed between neighbors. Number 13. Fish and chips. For about 2 shillings, a family could walk home with a bag of steaming fish and chips wrapped in newspaper. The smell of salt, vinegar, and frying oil was irresistible. Sitting on a bench with hot chips on your lap was as British as it gets. Number 14. A pack of cigarettes. A packet cost around 5 shillings, about 25 pence. Smoking was everywhere, in pubs, buses, workplaces, even cinemas. It was a habit tied to adulthood and socializing, though health warnings were just starting to appear. Number 15. A cup of tea at a cafe. For a few pence, you could sit in a local cafe with a steaming mug of tea. Often served in thick china cups with a saucer, it was more about the break and the conversation than the drink itself. Number 16. A new television. A black and white TV cost around £75. Families saved for months, and once installed, neighbors sometimes came over to watch. Popular programs like Coronation Street or Match of the Day turned living rooms into communal theaters. Number 17. A haircut. A trip to the barber cost about 2 shillings. Barbershops smelled of Brill cream, cigarettes, and talc. A short back and sides was the default cut, done quickly with little fuss. Number 18. A new suit. A decent men's suit cost around £20. It wasn't fast fashion, it was an investment, often worn for years, even decades. Tailors still altered clothes to fit, and buying a suit was a proud moment. In 1965, prices were smaller, but so were wages. What mattered was not just the cost, but the meaning behind each purchase. A pint of beer, a loaf of bread, or a cinema ticket wasn't simply cheap, it was woven into community, routine, and pride. Life cost less, but it often felt richer.